Building a homestead is actually the easy part. The hard part actually starts 3 or 4 years later, when everything you built starts needing maintenance, probably all at the same time. And I think that catches a lot of people off guard. Because when people picture homesteading, they picture gardens or animals, fresh food, quiet mornings. What they usually don't picture is being outside at 11 o'clock at night in the rain, trying to figure out why your fence charger is not working. But that's the part that eventually becomes your normal life. Now, don't get me wrong. The beginning is very exciting. And honestly, it's probably the most exciting phase of the entire thing. Every project feels like progress. You build a coop, plant some fruit trees, put up some fencing, and eventually bring home your critters. And for the first couple years, you mostly see growth. But here's the truth most people don't realize. Every single thing you build on a homestead eventually becomes something you have to maintain. And maintenance compounds, and that's the trap. Eventually, you will stop building on the homestead and start maintaining everything. And trust me, that's a completely different lifestyle. Here at the farm, I can walk outside right now and point in any particular direction and find, well, maybe 20 projects that need something. None of them are huge jobs by themselves, and that's the dangerous part. It's death by 1,000 little maintenance problems. A gate sagging, a water leak, fence repair, weed pressure, greasing equipment, replacing insulators, feed runs, and well, it never really stops. I remember when we first built some of our chicken infrastructure years ago, I honestly thought, okay, we're set. Nope. Now those systems need repairs, upgrades, predator proofing, and drainage work. And you know what? That maintenance becomes permanent. You know, the internet usually shows homesteading during those rewarding moments. And those moments certainly are real. Fresh harvests, baby animals, sunsets over pasture, and that stuff absolutely exists. But what usually gets skipped is the weight holding it all together. Because behind every pretty picture, there's feed bills, fuel costs, repairs, vet bills, equipment maintenance, so on and so forth. And I think by year 4 or 5, we were spending more time maintaining systems than actually building new ones. And nobody really talks about that stage. And honestly, this is where I think a lot of people quietly burn out. Not because they hate the lifestyle, because eventually the workload becomes constant. And I'm curious, for the folks that have been out here doing this a while, what was the first thing on your homestead that made you realize this is a lot more responsibility than I expected? Because I think everybody that sticks with this life eventually has that moment. One of the biggest differences between this life and modern suburban life is the responsibilities never stop. You got a storm coming, critters need water, you might have a power outage, freezers still need to be filled, the fence is down, everything has to be handled. I remember during one outage, we were rotating power, checking freezers, managing livestock water, and trying to keep ahead of the weather all at the same time. And after enough years, that constant responsibility gets heavy, especially if you built more systems than you realistically have time to maintain in the long term. You know, I watch a lot of homesteading videos on YouTube, and I think this is the part people don't explain very well. Trying to talk to beginning homesteaders. Homesteading is not simple living. Meaningful living? Absolutely. But simple? No way. Because eventually, the homestead stops feeling like a hobby or a project and starts feeling more like your entire world depends on what you do every single day. Now, personally, I still believe that this life is so worth it. I believe growing food matters. I believe practical skills matter. I believe self-reliance matters. But I also think people need to have realistic expectations before they build too much, too fast. Because if you create systems bigger than your time, money, or energy can support long-term, eventually the homestead starts owning you instead of the other way around. I don't think the dream is fake. I think the internet just skips the hard parts. The maintenance, the exhaustion, years of upkeep, and of course the responsibility. And honestly, I think people who go into this life with realistic expectations are the ones most likely to still love it a decade or two later. So, for the people that have lived this life for a while, what part ended up being heavier than you expected? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoy honest conversations about real-world homesteading and self-reliant living, make sure you subscribe. From all of us here at Possum Ridge Farms, until next time, I'll see you down at the barn.